Well, a little bit of a somber drive, 6.5 hour drive back to Ohio. I never usually respond to people on Facebook ever, just because most of the time they don't know, right? They don't know what's going on. They see something and react and talk in hindsight, much like anybody would. I would, you would, if you see something happening, like, oh, what an idiot. It was like the Yankees game last night. No, we were sitting there watching the Yankees game last night, and I made reference to this last night in the video. 1 out, bases loaded, and batter comes up. Guy strikes him out. Now the third pitch was a big bender that he just waved at. And the Yankees fans, we're in New Jersey, were abundant in the grand, and it was a collective groan in the grandstand. This guy stands up and he goes, "What an idiot. Why would you swing at that?" Eddie, why would you swing at that? And I thought to myself, I know that feeling. Been there. And then the next guy comes out and pops up to left field or right field or something. And you're left with that sense of, why did he do that, right? So you can't, unless you're that batter, you don't know, right? You can't quantify what was going through your head. And if you try to explain it to somebody, they may not understand. And somebody, it wasn't a rude comment. It was a very poignant comment on one of our clients' boards that had a, good luck time is on my side thing. And they said, McDonald should have known going out of there at 71-1, he should have known he'd get parked. I knew there was a chance I'd get parked. Everybody does that leaves hard from the outside with a horse they should know. That's the risk you take in horse racing. But therein lies the entire statement, was the risk involved in horse racing. It's horse racing. You run that back, and I tried to explain it to the gentleman. I wasn't angry. His comment wasn't incorrect. But when you run it back, as I said to you guys last night, Captain Albano was already down to the front. Dexter was in the 2-hole and was not going to quarter pole on him. Nijinsky, I don't think Louis tries him. I don't think he does. At some point he would have had to, but I don't think he does. So they line up in single file. Now, if I don't leave, I'm away 7th. I believe now, Scotty, it was funny, Scotty got back to the house last night. We had left before he was done racing. And he said, I thought you left because you looked right. I said, well, I looked left and I looked right. I knew what was happening left. I looked right. Timmy was on the screen. He goes, oh. He said, I thought you looked at me. And I didn't know what he meant. And he said, I was going to go out of there. He said he was going out of there with Captain Luke. And then once you have a horse to the inside of you, that's going to create that wedge between you and where you have to go. You have to call an audible. Well, for me, there was no wedge. There was the 3 favorites. And I thought time would step out of there quicker. Todd would have to make a decision going into the first turn, cut me loose, and either Dexter would move and create that different dynamic of the race, or Todd would remove, and now there's the race that I saw unfolding in my head. I'm in the 2-hole. Mirage Hanover's first over. Nijinsky's second over. Maybe I can follow Todd the whole way down the lane and be second in the Breeders' Crown. Or who knows? Maybe I get really lucky and he comes up a little soft and I beat him. That's, in my head, that was best case scenario. Now, time didn't spring off the gate quite as snappy as I thought he would. Maybe I was doing too much looking to the left and right and should have just dropped the hammer coming off the car. Thought I did anyway. But all these things are going on in the blink of an eye. When I went on the track, I was getting away 7th and was going to be 3rd over. When I looked left, there's only 3 horses on the gate. And when I looked right, Timmy was coming out of there. Now, to be fair and truthful, I didn't see Scotty up on the gate. But I knew Timmy was coming out of there. I don't want him to get my spot, where I should have been. Anyway, the moral of the story is, if you can't live with your actions, don't go on the track. And I think that's the ultimate thing. I can lick my wounds for the next 6.5 hours. I can cry for the next couple of days. But at the end of the day, get back to work. It's over. Turn the page. There's nothing worse. Last night, you're going in as a long shot, and you leave with this feeling you didn't belong, that you made this monumental error. That's racing. I saw some of the best drivers in the world leave with the same look on their face that I had last night and the same feelings in their guts that I did last night. That's what the Breeders' Crown does to you. That's what being at the top of the heap does to you. You get there because you think you belong. You think your horse belongs. And sometimes you leave there with a feeling you don't. And that's the crappy part about racing. But you know what? What you should do is reflect a little bit on the first part of what I just said. That you had a good horse. And that's how you got there. Time is on my side, paced 48-4 last week. 26-1 on the end of it. He didn't get there by fluke. He earned it. And for the most part, I think I drove him pretty good all year. But you don't get to whiff at the curveballs in the World Series and get away with it, right? You don't get to look at the strike threes. You have to go up and take your hacks. Play the game. And that's exactly what I did. And it doesn't make it any easier to respond to a gentleman on Facebook. And as I said to him in a note, I wasn't going to respond. I never generally do. But it was a polite note. It wasn't rude. It was poignant. So I responded in the same way. So I hope Scott, wherever you're from, wherever you're at, understood what I was saying, understood what went on in those seconds before they said go, and understand why I got parked.
You can't be the only one that's ever left.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I feel the same way that everybody did that ever did, right? Yeah. And for people saying, well, you just shouldn't, I will remind everybody, Jason Bartlett got beat ahead, leaving with the longest shot from post 10. Yeah. And I'm sure he learned a long time ago, too. You want to show up and drive like you're 70-1 and that you don't belong, no one's going to remember who you are. I don't like being remembered for the guy that got parked and run. And it was very nice of Scott not to say this. I had said it last night, and Scott on Facebook, about costing Noel Daly and Todd McCarthy. And I apologized if that happened. But truthfully, I would like to know what Todd thought, because the middle half, I never pushed him at all. I just rode on the outside. And that's why time...
supposed to do at that point.
No, but I mean, what people could say is I ran him into the ground. I didn't push him.
It's not like you're going to pull back.
No, I just sat on the outside, rode on the outside. That's why time lasted as long as he did.
It lasted a lot.
Because I never asked him. I just let him sit.
I guess it doesn't really make a difference when you're going on a stretch. If you're
but the whole point is whether I pressed the horse's pace up front, and I didn't. Those were fairly sensible fractions for the best horse in the world. Right? 26-4, 27-1, 27-1. Absolutely. He left 26-4 also. That may have sealed the deal there. Anyway, it's a horse race. What are you going to do? You know, I'm left talking about this, but it's done. We got a good horse. He's going to be a good 4-year-old for us. He's going to be a good race horse, and we have lots of other good horses to race. I think that's my takeaway from it. Now we'll talk about some other horses that have been racing. Obviously, although they're not world-class caliber, the horses in Illinois, I know not a lot of us have paid attention because it's such a weird program out there. It's such a weird program. It's such a weird program out there. It's so scattered. They don't start till late in the year, and the races are all staggered. But the finals are coming up for our Illinois breds, Allie Scott Grid, and what a lady, what a night. Now, I believe our trip to Hawthorne helped one, and still the filly is not proper. Now, Jim had asked me to go drive them in the last division next week, but quite frankly, I'm supposed to be on my way to Harrisburg, and I can't get out of Hawthorne. The last flight out is 8:20, and that's just not going to cut it. So unless there's another airport close to Harrisburg, I do want to be in the agriculture complex in Harrisburg Sunday morning. of next week. That's very important. Yeah, right? Why do
I thought you were going to run over that.
You thought I was going to run over the dead bird on the road?
I don't know what it was.
It was a gigantic bird. Stop looking at dead road killers, well.
I thought you were going to hit it.
Well, first off, it's already dead.
I know.
I think it's going to pop back up and say, come on, man. Like I'm just laying here dead.
No.
You think that's what's going to do?
No, I just don't want it.
It's going to haunt us forever. We'll be driving down the road and it'll just pop up on the dash. You think I didn't see that back there?
I don't want its grossness on my car.
I see. It's grossness. What, his wing? Stuck in your bumper? Anyway, the Hawthorne horses, they both made the final right now, so there's no concern they didn't make it. My answer to Jim was, listen, I would love to go back out and go with One Lady One Night for sure. I think we got, well, the great news is I think we got the colt under control, and I really, truly believe he's got a shot to win the final. I do. He's a nice colt. He's turned into a nice little horse. The filly feels like she's trying to do her work. She just, is it immaturity? Is something bothering her? Last week, if you had asked me going to the gate, I thought we were going to have a real problem getting her around. And what she showed me was she was a little more tenacious than I thought she was. She did bear down, do her work best she could. So I don't really know what took place last night with that break behind the gate. And then subsequently, she must have run somewhere else because I didn't see her anywhere on the screen after that. But they are trotters and they are going to make breaks. And I would love to go out there next week and go with both. I just honestly don't think I can. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. So that is that. What else do we got? Corbin tomorrow. We have a number of horses going. Now, I know that Gaslight Hall was a little bit under the weather. He might be a tiny bit short tomorrow. But again, he's made the final with a second place finish anyway. So I'm not waiting with bated breath. I know that I haven't told Scotty this yet, so I'll text him tomorrow in case Eric doesn't let him know, but might be a tiny bit short, so maybe not driving in the most aggressive fashion. Whereas the other horses, I think, are all ready to rock, as far as my understanding goes. So I'm really happy with the way Corbin and Kentucky in general has turned out. It was a very a learning experience for us this year. A lot of the horses that we sent to Oak Grove early maybe rethink our strategy in that regard. Who goes through the Red Mile last year, because that was a changing this year also. There's a huge change area, 20, 21 races in a day, multiple divisions. It's excessive, I believe is the word I'm looking for. Maybe some of our PA and Kentucky horses will stay in PA. You know, we'll see how that plays out this year. And then obviously we have a number of overnight horses racing. We have a sale coming up on Monday. I think I've been pretty clear why the horses were in the sale, and every bit is clear that I don't know that they will sell. I don't know what will take place. I do have a number for some of the horses, and none of those horses on that list, this isn't not even in 1% a fire sale. So every single horse that is up for sale Monday will have a price beside it. If they don't go over it, we'll retain them. But I do believe not putting them in the sale would be an error at this juncture. And that's why they're there. So, I guess the biggest news left on our docket, aside from Hawthorne, the end of Kentucky, and structuring and restructuring our overnights in such a fashion that they can be competitive week in and week out, wherever that may be, is the Harrisburg sale coming up. It will be a supply and demand driven sale, that's for sure. We have a number of horses. Amy and I have identified the types of horses we need. Obviously, trotting fillies, trotting colts, Pennsylvania breds. Pennsylvania bred trotting colts and fillies. And then there's always people looking for that, that premium. A lot of people ask for pacers. We need an Ontario pacing colt, but quite frankly, I'll be upfront with everybody right now. We have 43 shares left, and the only pacing filly we got. There's nothing that would lead me to believe if we go and buy a pacing colt that it would be sold out. So I don't really know if we're going to. There is an Ontario pacing colt bucket on that site. Trust me, if it doesn't have a number of shares sold when we hit Harrisburg, it will be discontinued before we get there. And that's the only fair way for me to do it. And that's not me being
upset. The only Ontario.
The only one we don't have is a pacer.
That's the only one you've put on there for Harrisburg is for Ontario.
Yeah, because we have 2, maybe 3 colts already, a trotting filly or 2 and a pacing filly. We have 4 or 5.
The cattle wash.
The cattle wash filly riding the rodeo, yeah. And then we have Steve's horse, the horse we bought there. The one that we have, I think we have 2 or 3. We definitely have 3 Ontario bred trotters, for sure, if not 4. And then I'm sure there'll be, I have to speak to the gentleman in Harrisburg that wanted to send us a Goo Goo Gaga filly, which I'm interested in, but it doesn't make sense. It's something that we're going to do. You're going to have those types of situations come up also in Harrisburg. We always have a pretty good relationship with Blue Chip Farms. We have a number of mares. He was kind of scouting, but Tom's always shifty. He's always smart, and he's always going to want to beat us. And when it comes to buying brood mares, so if we end up with a Blue Chip horse, there's probably a deal to be made with Blue Chip. But again, that's another one of those side stories we talk about, or any other farm. I only say Blue Chip because that's the type of rapport that we have with Tom Grossman and Blue Chip Farms, and I don't have that type of rapport really with any of the other breeders, where you can work that out, although I'm sure many of them would be approachable to that type of situation. So maybe that's part of what I'll do in Harrisburg also. Talk to Julie at Concord or Steve. I walked right by Steve in the escalator last night going up. He was going up, getting on the escalator, and I was coming off at the restaurant. And he said, see you in another week. And I could have brought it up then, but probably bad timing. So those are more of the storylines playing out this year. What mares are going to be bred, what mares are retaining, and as Amy pointed out last week, and I pointed out briefly to you, we can't keep them all, right? So there is going to be some retention. There's going to be some horses moved on, some brood mares moved in the new year. We just can't keep piling on. Originally I thought 5 to 8 would be nice. We're up around 11 or 12 right now. So there are going to be some mares that are kind of culled from the pack, so to speak, this year. I have no idea who those will be, and I suppose some of them will be driven on the offspring that we're training right now also. So lots going on, but it's all going to start this week. We're going to get back to racing and then head down to Harrisburg. For my Illinois partners, I really don't know. I know everybody, listen, it's nice to be wanted, especially now more than ever, but I don't think I can make it out to Illinois next week. We'll see. I'll do my best to try and figure it out, but it's not looking good if there's another flight added. If I could get out at 9 o'clock, I could probably ask the race secretary to, have the races early, and I could make it. But 8:20 is just, it's impossible for me to do. So that's where we're at right now. For those of you wondering about the Harrisburg sale, if you have any questions, obviously reach out to me, drop me a line, send me a text or a note. For those of you who are participating in Harrisburg, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And for everybody else, good luck at the track this week, and I will talk to everybody very, very soon.